Can I have a moment? Because I feel like I've got a bogey in it. Been really stressing me out.
That's the cold open to the podcast.
Yeah, should we bring back cold opens for the podcast? Hello, I'm Alex.
When have you ever started with hello?
Yeah, exactly. We never
That
start.
seems
hello.
like new.
What do I
It's
normally
just,
say?
I'm
I don't
Alex.
know. But hello seems weird.
I'm Alex.
I'm James.
And I'm Dan.
We're the RAGAMUFFINs, and this is episode 49 of the RAGAMUFFIN Music Podcast. Almost at the big 50.
We'll have to get a cake and some balloons and a big badge for that one.
Happy birthday to us on the next podcast.
Sure.
50.
This is a place for us to talk about the music that we love, though.
On this episode, we've got brand new album reviews from Architects, Love Is Noise, Dream Theater, as well as a load of singles from Spiritbox, Straight from the Path, and more.
And later on, we'll be making our perfect band drafts where we come up with our ideal band lineups.
Anyway, should we talk about last episode's album recommendations?
Yes,
Let's do
please.
that.
So James messaged our group chat a little while ago and said that he couldn't wait to talk about the album that I recommended, which is Ascension by Mira.
It's bloody gorgeous. Wonderfully heavy. Right up my street. And the interesting part is I think, especially like with instrumental music, it can be hard to keep a listener's attention. And I feel like this moves in so many different directions, and each song is still very distinct in itself, that you're just kind of completely pulled into that world and you're just taking along for a ride with it. And like the amount of dissonance is gorgeous, the heaviness is beautiful. It just seems incredibly well thought out, very well written, and it's become like my gym album for like the past like 2 or 3 weeks essentially. Absolutely love it, and it fucking slaps.
Agreed.
Nice.
That's easy.
Love it.
I thought this was fantastic. Like, I'm not normally like into instrumental music. Like when I've listened to like bands like Polyphia and Animals Leaders in the past, I've sort of like been willing it to have vocals come in.
Yep.
I didn't feel that once on this album.
No.
Like I feel like I'd never even thought about it. Like I was just so.
It's almost like it kind of half tells a story just through like just sonically. I can't really explain any further than that, but it somehow does.
Makes sense. The other thing, but the other thing I find fascinating is I put it in the same realm as where I've put Loathe, 1056 in the past, where you listen to just the noises that are being made as well. And I'm so fascinated as to how that's done live. Like, I can't help but listen to it and think, how would they do that? I'm so intrigued to see it. And obviously then you just kind of listen to it on a deeper level, analysing it. It's absolutely amazing, to be honest.
I group it among, obviously they're instrumental, so it's slightly different, but I group them with bands like Code Orange and Harriet, where like they're making music that's in a way like offensive and should be horrible to listen to, but just they just draw you in. And like James said, you hear them make certain sounds with presumably a guitar, and it's like, how have they done that then? What are they doing here?
I need to see this. No, phenomenal recommendation.
And likewise, as someone that's not particularly drawn to instrumental or proggy music.
Yeah, I'm surprised this came from you.
This really, really pulled me in.
Really
I love
surprised.
It a lot.
I'm going to have to delve more. What did you recommend?
I recommended Autumn Lost in Silence by Killing Me Softly, who are one of the most like exciting bands in the UK metalcore scene at the moment, and I can see why, because this album is everything I want out of metalcore. I want it to sound kind of a little bit like shit, like production wise, and sound like it's kind of been dug out of a time capsule from like 2006. It was just brilliant. It was just to me, this is like flawless modern metalcore, because it has enough in it to kind of feel like throwbacky at times, but with kind of like modern understanding of what metalcore is now. It's weird. It's hard for me to explain it, but like I just think it blends everything that it does together so well, and the vocal delivery is what stands this out for me. Just sounds like someone being tortured, and it's sick.
I think it's interesting. Like, it goes to points past metalcore as well. And also for the heaviness it is, my main takeaway was actually how fucking groovy it was. There's so many points listening to it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, like proper kind of bopping along with it. It really was a thoroughly enjoyable listen, and something I think very unique. And you can tell influences and things like that, but it also is just extremely distinct in what it is, and really enjoyable to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to pick up on the point Alex made about it being like a 2006 time capsule, because that was my immediate thought. Like 10 seconds into the first track was, oh, this sounds like something from like the mid 2000s. Like it's released in 2023, and it's a metalcore album, but it feels like it's got so many elements. I said elephants. There's so many elephants.
All those trunks.
It feels like it's got so many elements of like mid 2000s emo. Again, combined with some more modern hardcore and metalcore elements as well. Like I can hear Thrice in there, but I can also hear like See You Space Cowboy, and it's like a multitude of genres just like mashed together.
Yeah.
But it works. I love it a lot. And like again, like the raw sounding production as well. Like it's like you're in the room hearing it
and
live.
It's so refreshing when you go from like the really crisp production of a lot of modern bigger metalcore bands to go back to something that sounds like that is like really refreshing.
Well, Architects, for example, we've listened to this album and the new Architects album this month, and like they're almost like different ends of the spectrum in terms of production value.
Very much.
Banging.
Love it.
I recommended potentially one of the heaviest albums of all time. No, if you didn't see it, I recommended Escapology by Robbie Williams. It's an incredible album. You'd seen Better Man before me. You said it was great.
I've seen it thrice.
You've seen it 3 times now.
Yeah.
It's another Thrice mention.
So I watched it, immediately kind of threw back to childhood, and was like, yeah, I'm jamming it. And so I kind of want to leave you for afterwards, because I know what your response is kind of going to be.
Banger. I think like this is not my favourite Robbie Williams album. I'm a sing when you're winning kind of guy.
Okay.
But
does that make sense to you?
That's a Robbie Williams album.
Yes. Okay.
That's the football one.
Yes, that's the football one.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Do you know what? It's weird because like as I was listening to this, because I've listened to a lot of his albums in full before, but
I'm seeing him live this year.
I'm seeing him live this year, but I don't go back to like full albums like that often. The thing that was kind of like that struck me was how many other songs on this album could have been major lead singles, and like it makes me think about like what modern pop music is like now, because I don't engage with like pop music outside of like what I'm hearing on the radio and stuff. So like I don't know, like let's say for example, just off the top of my head, like an artist like Harry Styles, I'm hearing like his big stuff that like I'm hearing the
You're
lead
hearing more than that, aren't you?
I'm hearing like the lead singles, but I'm not necessarily going through a full album.
You're not hearing the deep cuts.
So I don't know if like the quality of a pop album is still up there. But then I listened back to like this album and some of his other ones in full, and it's like they were not phoning it in. They were like, and then it makes you realise why this era of music was selling so many albums, because this is such an easy album to go from start to finish. It's not like Feels track 3 and that's a single, and then Come Undone's like 8 or 9 and that's a single, and you're kind of like lost in the middle, just like going through a bunch of like fillers. Like I actually feel like this album has loads of really strong songs on it.
I mean, that's kind of part of why. I mean, it's my favourite one if I'm going through them all, to be honest. But that's also part of why I recommended it. Is he's got like, obviously he's had songwriting partners he's had before, like Guy Chambers, but his songwriting I think generally is extremely underrated. And when you can kind of go through that and think every song on an album could be a single, it just kind of proves that point. Latter albums maybe not so much. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see what your thoughts are. How much of this you might have heard before?
It's good. I've never been a Robbie Williams hater. I've always been more of a neutral in those grounds. It's easier that way. There's less heartbreak. that was like a half-hearted football reference then. But yeah, I mean, I think Alex raised an interesting point about the difference in like pop music then and now. Like now, I think a pop album will have just pop songs. Like it'll be 10 pop songs, whereas this album, like there's pop songs, there's like indie songs, there's more like punk rock and like arena rock songs in there.
Yeah.
And like the fact that all of those mixes of genre were all popular at this time, like it just says a lot about the state of the music industry then and now, I think.
Yeah, it's more interesting to look at it as like a snapshot of the era than the work itself, I suppose.
Come Undone is my favourite Robbie Williams song.
Is it? Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like mine, I think is Strong. Or She's the One, which actually isn't a Robbie Williams song, it's a cover, but it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I saw an interview where he was like asked to rank his songs, and he was like, "Well, we can't put She's the One in there." He's like, "It's not one of mine."
But a banger nonetheless.
Facts.
Well, 3 great recommendations then. Well done, boys. Should we move on to new music?
Let's move on to some new music.
We've got a lot of new music.
The best
Oh,
kind of music.
Christ, yeah, a lot of new music. We will start straight off the bat. Spiritbox. We've got No Loss, No Love. Now we've had the Grammy nomination. We've kind of said at the start when we did our predictions that we think Spiritbox is going to have a great year. So there's a lot of anticipation on what's coming out from them. And I love this for the fact that they're still pushing boundaries in what they're doing, and it feels much more innovative, creative, beautifully heavy as fuck. Not 100% sure how I feel on the like spoken word moments throughout it. I think it's been better on multiple listens, but initially I found that quite jarring, to be honest. But as soon as you kind of kick into the heaviness and they're ramping it up, maybe even past points where they've gone before, and the experimentation and the dissonance they're bringing through, it does make me like extremely intrigued based on the singles we've heard so far on what Tsunami Sea is going to be like as a whole.
I think the talking stuff's cool. I think it's like an interesting way to structure a song.
Yeah, agreed.
Like aside from going like the typical verse chorus route. The thing that I feel like, I was talking to someone at work about this. Shout out Dean at work.
Big up Dean.
I always feel like I'm a cycle behind with Spiritbox. Like, aside from Eternal Blue, everything they've done since then, I haven't gotten into it until about 6 months to a year after release. So, like, with the Rotoscope EP, I was really averse to it. And now I'm kind of fine with it. I felt it a lot on the Purple EP, The Fear of Fear.
Yeah.
Where, as I was listening to it at release, I remember thinking, like, I just don't click with this at all. And I'm kind of feeling that way with these singles at the moment. Like, I'm listening to it, and I can't dispute that it's a good and very cool metalcore song, but I'm not, like, hooked in the way that I now am with, like, The Fear of Fear, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what it is. It's something about my brain and Spiritbox's music just must take a while for it to seep in for some reason.
See, I agree with you to an extent. Like I've been the same. But like, loved Eternal Blue, and they lost me with the last 2 EPs they released. But I'm fully on board with this one now. Like all the singles have all had something a little bit different about them. I'm really liking the spoken word sections on this song. To kind of put a metaphor on it, I suppose it feels like there's a little bit of a calm, and then like a tsunami wave comes crashing in, like back with all the heaviness again. And I'm fully on board with this again now. I think this album's going to be something special, and Jordan Fish is involved as well, so it's going to be fishified.
This might sound kind of silly because, like, you compare it.
Sorry, yeah, in my mind you went, this might sound kind of silly.
Do we think the Jordan Fishification of all of the major metalcore acts is potentially not a good thing?
I think it's interesting.
I think this is something we should save for when we talk about the Architects album.
Interesting. Okay, let's put a pin in that. I'll move on.
Put a pin in the fish.
Ow, I got pin in the
Next up, we've got Kubrick's Stare from Stray from the Path. We did a reaction video when it came out, so you've seen our initial thoughts.
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
That's a cute. Yeah, Stanley Kubrick.
Yep.
Well done. I didn't.
Kubrick there.
Kubrick there. Very nice.
Mm.
Dan, what did you think?
Sorry, I
Yeah.
interrupted you a bit there.
No, that's yeah. Before we go into it further after some time, what are your initial thoughts?
I am a bit 50-50 on this song because I love it, but it sounds exactly the same as the stuff they're doing on the last album,
Okay.
which I loved. So that's great. It means it's a great song and I really like it. But I kind of was hoping for just, I guess, some development or something a little bit different. But overall, yeah, as a song on its own, I think it's brilliant. I don't really have much more to add, really.
I get that.
There's not even like a particular bit of the song that I love. It's just exactly what I expect from Stray from the Path at the moment.
One thing that I feel like it's something that's quite unique to them, but every time we've seen them live, people tend to kind of football sing their riffs. And I feel like that's kind of happened really naturally. And I feel like with this riff, they've kind of leaned into that and probably written with that in mind, which I think is really
Possibly.
cool. Because I feel like that riff is kind of going to be one that people are going to like shout back at them.
I'm hearing it now.
Yeah, I know what you mean about like kind of wanting some development. There's a part of me that's just like kind of thinks if it ain't broke, like just keep.
Which is why I'm really conflicted on it,
Yeah,
because like it's fine. I loved that album, and I like this song, but it's I don't know.
We'll see. I guess we'll just have to see it. It's hard to. We don't know what the rest of the album's going to shape up like, but it is undisputedly a banger.
Yeah,
I do see your point as well. You kind of want that development, but I think there's also been, from my side, probably from both of you as well, because Euthanasia was so good, and it feels like it was such a long time ago now at this point, there's been like such a desire to have new Stray, and I think that's definitely like formed into my part of like opinion for this. And I've gone and listened to this like multiple times in a row, and just had this song played multiple times in a row. And I'm so pissed I couldn't go to that Underworld show, because that is my favourite venue. This is one of my favourite bands, and I'd have been front flipping off that stage. So very jealous of anyone that did go and see it. But no, very, very excited. We're now getting towards the album campaign for Stray, and already marked out as a possible album of the year contender, I think. Very reliable band.
Something else I will say is I commend Stray from the Path for still being angry.
Yep.
There's too many bands that have like built their following on their like political viewpoint and the fact that they sing about politics and kind of stand up for what's right, that have kind of gone quiet. But Stray from the Path, they're still fighting the
Dedicated.
fight. So we'll commend them for that, I think.
Absolutely. Moving on, we got Arm's Length with Funny Face, the first single from their upcoming album. I can't remember what it's called. There's a Whole World Out There, maybe?
That sounds right.
Sounds about right.
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
There is a whole world out there.
Yeah.
But forget what's out there. Let's talk about the music in here. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a great single to launch the new album campaign on, because it's clearly just built on what they were doing on the last album. It's still got sort of all the hooks and everything that you kind of expect from an Arm's Length song, but just with more playfulness, I think, more riffage.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I'd expect from them, really.
I was surprised at how like heavy the production feels on this song for like what they are genre-wise. It feels like it really actually like proper smacks you in the face at times with the way the instruments like just kind of are mixed and the way it kind of cuts through.
And not even just in the breakdown, throughout the whole
like
song,
throughout
really.
The whole thing, yeah, like going from a verse into a chorus feels like punchy. I think this goes to show that like the most important thing in this genre to me is the lyrics, because I think you could give this instrumental to like other bands in the scene and it probably wouldn't be as compelling of a song. But I think what makes this, at least to me what makes this so good is the way the lyrics are crafted. And like they seem to do things in such a way that it's like it's so incredibly specific that it kind of makes it more like accessible for you to interpret it. If that makes, I know
Sure,
it kind of seems like arse backwards, but like, I don't know, they just sort of, because they're writing so specifically about obviously something that's like unique to them, you're kind of able to just like extract that to your own like experiences that kind of relate. So yeah, I think this is going to be a great album. They said in an interview that, or the vocalist lyricist said, like, I was worried in the studio I was being too honest, which probably means we're going to be in for some
deep
trauma
stuff.
yeah. But I'm very excited. Well, I think they're one of the most exciting bands in like, emo music, if you want to call them that.
Well, that's the other thing. They're kind of straddling between emo, pop punk, maybe some elements of easycore in there as well with the breakdowns they use.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Yeah, you can't really. I think that's one of the great things about the scene at the moment is that you can't really ring fence anyone and just put someone in one genre. Everyone kind of is experimenting enough to straddle across all these different genres.
A lot more diversity nowadays. It's lovely to see that.
Next up, we've got a new one from 1056, Earwig. And it has been a bit of an earwig. Or an earworm.
What's the difference?
One's a wig and one's a worm.
I've never before had... I didn't catch their set of Burn It Down last year. So I've never before had a reason to really listen to this band, aside from when they come up on like Spotify's radio or whatever. And this song completely changed that. I think this is a fucking banger. Like, heavy, it kind of flows really nice. Like, it doesn't sort of linger on one riff or one idea for too long, but it also doesn't move on without you kind of soaking up what it's been doing, like sonically for the past like riff or whatever. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
It just feels like the flow of within one song is like bang on perfect. So yeah, like no notes.
I've got nothing to add really. It's heavy. It's also more heavy.
I mean, I find that interesting with it because they're a band that I've really got into, and it was off the back in particular of that Burn It Down performance. That was the set of the festival for me. Just the way they were on stage, how tight they were, production, interaction with fans. It just felt like a complete performance. And then since that last summer, just absolutely delved into it and listened to them so much. And I'm extremely happy with this. I think like there's a lot of parts I kind of automatically just think of like parts in the song. Just thinking about it, and thoroughly enjoyable. I'm very excited to see what comes next because the way they release music has also been quite different. They'll do singles, EPs, but they never write, from what I've seen in interviews, they never write to say we're going to do an album. It's like, oh, okay, there's a song that's ready, let's put it out. Okay, there's 3 or 4 songs, we'll put out an EP. It's very much like on the fly, and I find that quite interesting that they don't try and conform to like your regular release schedule of, right, okay, we've just put out an album, so we've got a few songs, maybe in about 18 months we'll put out an EP or whatever. It's just very much free, and I think that's kind of a really nice part of it where, you know what, we got a 6 song, let's drop it. And absolutely love this band. Not sure what the rest of the plan is for 25 for them, but they're one of the bands that I'm kind of watching out for the most, just to see what else happens. Very entertaining. Happy me.
Speaking of happy you, another Landmark single.
Very happy me.
Another one.
And I will give me all of the Landmark singles, to be honest, because I've not been disappointed by a single one. This one in particular, like the back and forth and the diversity within it is phenomenal. It again hits the points of everything Landmarks are capable of in the various genres I guess they kind of can dip their toes into. Flo's vocals I think are amazing, and the way you kind of have those different parts textured throughout this, incredibly well thought out. The bit towards the end where it's really building into the big final chorus, where you kind of have him like angrily shouting, screaming like in French. It just feels like extremely impactful. And there's also, I think, a lot of emotion behind the delivery there. And I can't just say enough good things about this band, to be honest. It's going to be album of the year. I'm telling you, it's going to be album of the year. I will not hear anything otherwise.
I think the as James picked up on, the diversity between like the rapping and the verses and then the massive soaring choruses is I think what makes this song what it is. And Landmarks know how to write a fucking chorus as well. like on some of the other
anthemic,
singles
it
as well.
feels
It's
like.
just huge.
It feels like it could fill a stadium.
Well, maybe they will one day.
I fucking hope so.
That would be a landmark event, wouldn't it? Or maybe
You just look disappointed.
maybe they'll play a theatre. Did we want to do the Dream Theater album next?
Oh, okay, we can do that next.
okay,
Yeah, I
I
wasn't
see
seeing
where
that
you-
segue. I was not seeing that
Going
segue.
with that.
We have the first album back with Mike Portnoy behind the kit with Dream
Bingo.
Theater. Bingo. It's happened. Parasomnia. Now, the last one with him was Black Clouds and Silver Linings, which I believe was 2012.
Sure.
Or 2009. 2009. So it has been... Shrug. It's been 16 years since we had a recording, full album. So there has been a lot of anticipation, I think, from like old school fans in particular, me included. Not sure where you lie. You have your moments. And for the most part, I really enjoyed this album. It felt like a return, and like Portnoy has a particular feel behind the kit that works with Dream Theater's music. Petrucci's guitar tone, I think, throughout this is really, really nice. And I found it interesting kind of like finding out after listening to it as well that all the old albums they did together, it was Portnoy and Petrucci co-producing. Ever since Portnoy left, Petrucci just took over that on his own. And then in the conversations of Portnoy coming back, Petrucci was like, I want to remain as the sole one. And I find that quite interesting, that bringing him back in the dynamic and that he stayed true to what he wants with it, because I think it worked. I think there's a lot of good songs on here. And yeah, I found it for an hour and 11 minutes, I think it is, including a 20-minute song. Found it extremely easy listening. Intriguing to probably have their shortest ever song being that interlude, which they've never really done before. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I could talk about this for quite a while, so I'm not going to.
You can talk about it as long as you like, because I have to confess, I couldn't do it.
It's fair.
I got about 4 songs in every time I tried to listen, and I just couldn't. It just didn't hold my attention at all. And that's not a criticism of the album or the music. It's just clearly not for me.
Yeah, it ain't for everyone.
And it's helping with my ADHD diagnosis.
Yeah, Dream Theater to me is very much like I have to be in the right mood, and I also I got through it. I shouldn't say I got through it like it was a chore, but like I got through this album a few times, but a lot of the times I'd kind of finish and be like, I actually wasn't paying attention to what the fuck.
That's the thing with me. It wasn't just I hate this, I'm turning it off. It was like I just find that my mind was wandering, and like I wasn't actually paying any attention to it anymore. So I was like, I can't really. There's no point in me carrying on listening if I'm just not listening.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy he's back. I think Night Terror, which was the first single, undisputed banger. And I would love to see them live. I think they got so many. They're one of those bands as well. It's like, really, at the end of the day, we're probably going to get 1, 2, maybe at a push 3 songs out of this in the set. Yeah. And when I see them live, and I'm sure I will, I want to hear the bangers, as like the old bangers as well. So
they started playing the Dark Eternal Light live again.
Epic. So I want to say
how many songs do they put in a set? Like 4.
I mean, I've seen some of the set lists of the recent 40th anniversary, and they are long as fuck. It's like I don't know if you've seen like the Linkin Park ones of them coming back, and there's like 3 or 4 acts within it. Yeah, there's like that, and included they've been playing Octavarium on this tour, which is 25 minutes long. My goodness. So bearing in mind, there's a lot.
Is there an interval?
I'd imagine so.
And someone comes down with some ice cream or something.
I mean,
some hot peanuts.
I still just love.
I'm just playing on the theatre thing again.
I just still love the idea that they'll have all these long as fuck songs, and there'll be those segments where James LeBrie isn't singing, and he basically has a little behind like the amps. They'll have like fake amps there. He has like a little cupboard almost, where he has like a little seat,
like a little green room
in there. Essentially, he has and it's on the stage, and he'll just kind of go and disappear behind that while everyone does all the instrumental shit. And I will always find that quite funny. Yeah, that was Dream Theater.
There it is. Let's talk about the new Architects album.
The sky, the earth, and all between.
And all between. Between. It's been fishified. We now know that Jordan, as was rumoured, Jordan Fish has a writing credit and a producer credit on it. What do we think?
It's very intriguing for me because my first point would be I really didn't like Classic Symptoms. It felt like a lot of copy and paste for me apart from a couple of songs. And so it was really refreshing for this album to be a lot more diverse. And I feel like each song, whether I liked them or not, would stand out on their own. And so that was nice and refreshing to have, and that familiarity with Architects. For its good moments, they have probably some of my favourite breakdowns in recent years on here from them. The way they've dialed it up and really pushing the energy. I think the guitar tones are gorgeous. The layering of Sam's vocals where he's got highs and lows at the same time, I think is amazing. And also just some of the lows he puts in general, like in Elegy, like straight from the get-go, you're kind of lulled into it. And then it just hits you with a sledgehammer around the face. And the gutturals that are coming out, I don't feel we've heard anything like that from them before. So that was lovely. Do feel like there were songs that I would cut, and if it was an 8-song album and not a 12-song album, it would be even more favourable.
You're cutting 4 songs?
I think I would, yeah. Let me pull up the track list.
That was my next question. Which 4 are you cutting?
I'll be telling you.
That's very interesting.
It's still there it is.
Let's see if I can predict what you'd cut, actually.
Go on then.
I'm going to need the track list. I ain't got it. I think you'd cut Everything Ends.
I think you cut Chandelier. Yeah.
Maybe Landmines. And Evil Eyes.
You are correct. You are correct. You actually nailed it.
Which means I wouldn't necessarily cut them, but we agree that those are the 4 weakest songs.
4 weakest songs. I think, yeah, like some of those better than others out of those 4. But I think like if you were to condense it down more, it would make it a much stronger album overall. I think they've been very clever and obviously admitted themselves as well that they kind of got lost with some of their writing in the previous years. And it feels much more like this has a clearer intention of showing who Architects are as a band. And again, not as diverse as some of the bands that we may have, but they do have a lot that they can do. And I feel like this is really kind of presenting and showing all the different skills and how clever they can be with songwriting at times. But it just feels like there's parts of it that do fall a bit short for me.
And you
overall,
know what?
I love it.
I think that direction that they found has a lot to do with Mr. Fish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm not going to complain and say that he's come in and changed Architects and made them Jordan Fish or turned them into Bring Me the Horizon, because I don't think that's what's happened. There are a couple of songs on there that do feel a bit like what Bring Me the Horizon have been doing for the past 10 years, which is a shame. But I also think that there's songs on here which is just the new Architects, and is Architects finding the kind of band they want to be now. I think to kind of almost come to terms with it and enjoy this album a lot more, I've kind of had to reset my relationship with Architects. Yeah. Because I've been a fan for a long, long time. And I've kind of grew up with them being almost politically and sonically in the way that they're always angry about certain things, or at least used to be preaching and talking about certain topics and things in their music, and being on in my opinion the right side, and the band that always wanted to be on the right side of history, on whether it's political differences or things going on in the world, climate change. And I've just had to kind of take a step back and go, well, they're just not that band anymore, and that's fine.
I appreciate they've been on a hiatus.
Yeah, it's almost like that. And it's taken me reading an interview that Dan and Sam did recently, where they were kind of talking about how they've mellowed out, that they're not really wasting their time on being angry at things anymore, and they're kind of Dan's a parent. They're just kind of I'm not going to scare my children by being angry at the world and putting this complete gloom blanket over everything now, and like, fair enough.
But
I
with
get that.
they've been a band for, I can't remember when, but it's going to be at least reaching nearly on 20 years.
Yeah, and of course they lost their chief songwriter as well.
Yep.
That's going to change a band, and I thought that was fine. I thought, For Those That Wish to Exist, I thought it was a brilliant album. That's exactly what I wanted from Architects at the time. Didn't like the last album. Again, that's fine. But instead of completely writing them off, I mean, I did kind of write them off a bit personally, but I've had to, like I said, kind of reevaluate my relationship with them and go, okay, I perhaps don't align with this band and these people like politically or morally anymore, but the music's good, and that's fine.
I completely agree. I think that's exactly, especially like, I think about like the way I viewed the world at the time of like Lost Forever and All Our Gods coming out was like, I felt angry at everything that I saw in the world. And so like those albums were sort of like a good source of like comfort and outlet for like the way that I thought about things. And I think it is weird when like I again, I've watched an interview, I rewatched their Downbeat podcast on the Classic Symptoms release, and they said it, you know, they talk about it basically being like that for people was like people's medicine. People are angry, they listen to angry music, so as soon as you take that away, those people, and I think I was one of them, like I had like essentially a frustration that used to have an outlet that was gone. And I think you're exactly right. You have to just like reframe your relationship with the band. It's like, it's the same way at like, you know, I listened to bands like Being as an Ocean and The Amity Affliction when I was absolutely miserable. And now that I don't feel that way, listening back to that music, there's like a disconnect for me now, because it's like, I don't have like as deep a root in this as I used to. So I think I think like lyrically and sort of where this band are at sort of like socially now, I'm kind of like at peace with it.
Yeah,
I think
that's exactly what I mean. Like I've kind of just accepted, because I don't necessarily agree that like anger isn't the right thing. I think bands should still be angry and people should still be angry at some of the things that are going on in the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I'm almost just you know the phrase separating the art from the artist, which is a phrase people use in like completely the wrong context, for completely the wrong kind of bands. I think this is the kind of band that it fits. Like again, like I said, I'm not necessarily aligned with the beliefs of the band members anymore, but I still think the music kicks. Music still rips. And
also, crucially, I found other bands now that do the same thing.
There's always going to be
like
another band.
Stray, there's always going to be another, and Stick to Your Guns are the same. They've not wavered on the way they viewed the world and talked about the world. And I've always had, like, and with their new album, I really resonate with a lot of what they're saying. And that's also, they did it in an interesting way, where it was like, I think, this is sort of a bit of a tangent now, but with the Stick to Your Guns one, that album was the approach of like, we've spent years of our lives just shouting pure anger, but now it's like finding the hope in the anger, which is like the correct way to,
like a direction in it.
Yeah, the correct way to sort of evolve out of that. Whereas with Architects, it's just been like, and I don't mean this as like a diss. It's almost like they've been exhausted by being angry and exhausted by also like the topic of grief as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they've said in interviews, haven't they, that they don't want to be that band that kind of powers on through grief and becomes they're that band that like has the dead brother and stuff.
They just want to be Architects,
which is the right way to look at things. Like they should just be themselves. And like I said, I think Jordan Fish has probably helped them find themselves on this album, and I think it's
agreed
a good album overall. I disagree with James on dropping the songs. I wouldn't drop them totally, although they're, in my opinion, the weaker songs on the album. I think you need that kind of diversity in a full album. I think it'd be, if they did just put out like a full album that sounded like Seeing Red, we'd be going, well, every song sounds the same.
Mm.
Whereas because it's got those different kind of styles and different things in, I think that makes it an easier album to listen to, really, by having those little breaks.
I think this sonically, like this, really seamlessly blends the 3 albums that come before it.
Yeah,
and it takes because I don't know about you guys. A lot of people kind of think that Classic Symptoms is just like a write-off album. But I think
there's some
there
songs
are-
on
there
there,
are, like,
and I
good-
think I'm gonna have to revisit that album with my new piece with My Architect's Relationship.
Because that's what I feel like with this one. They've taken all of the best components of that album, and then all of the best bits from For Those That Wish to Exist, all the best bits from Holy Hell, do you know what I mean, and so on.
Yeah,
And they've basically, like, I think, really accurately kind of summarized where they're at musically by taking all of their. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
Tell you what, you even saying that makes me feel like Holy Hell was a lifetime ago.
Oh, don't. I watched a video where they were like reacting to their old music videos and stuff, and they watched A Match Made in Heaven, and it made me realize how fucking long ago that video came out.
Mm-hmm.
And also they talked in that as well. Because they talked about like that riff and the Doomsday riff, and how that kind of became like basically the blueprint for every other metalcore band. And they said that they actively avoided writing like that on the subsequent albums because they didn't want to feel like they were stuck in this loop of being imitated and then imitating themselves.
I mean,
which is why the previous 2 albums before this are so different. And it's like when you hear stuff like that and you hear the stuff in the interview about them not being angry anymore, you kind of, it all starts to make a lot more sense. And I actually think like it's a weird one because you don't want bands to like spoon feed you stuff, because sometimes it's nice to just be presented with a body of work and you interpret it how you want. But sometimes when you've had a band like Architects who are so outspoken for a long time, I think it's equally as important for them to say out loud, it's mentally draining for me to keep doing this.
Yeah.
This is why it's different. And I think had they done that 3 years ago, people's opinions on them now would probably be a bit softer.
I think that point you raised about Doomsday as well is another like reassessment of where Architects are at for me, because they were always that band that were like trailblazing the metalcore scene, at least in the UK, and then with Doomsday that seemed to just shape the entire like worldwide metalcore scene as well, and they were like the top. They were the guys that everyone was copying. Like Architects would release a song, and then like months later you've got metalcore bands releasing songs that sound identical to it.
Literally, I love Wage War. Low is a complete copy paste guitar riff. It's so you can tell it's so identical with it, and there's no denying that in any way, shape, or form. But
at some point, there's been like a changing of the guard. Architects aren't the leaders in the metalcore scene anymore, unfortunately.
I feel like in their stance, they're in a weird spot with that.
Well, what I was going to say is it now feels like Architects are taking elements from other bands now. There's a lot on this album that sounds like Bad Omens. Obviously, there's some inevitable Bring Me the Horizon influence on there. But again, I've just got I've been critical of them in the past because of it, but I've kind of just accepted now that they're not that band anymore. They're not the leaders anymore. And I'm not necessarily saying that they've started copying people.
Yeah.
No.
But again, maybe I shouldn't expect them to be setting the bar anymore. They're just releasing good music, and that's fine.
There we go.
There we go.
Complex thoughts. Let us know in the comments what you think about the new Architects album.
So Love Is Noise have been around for a little while, but they've finally released their debut album, To Live in a Different Way. Alex, what do you think of it?
Can I make a brave statement?
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Album of the year so far.
I might be with you on that.
I think this is flawless. I'm genuinely like. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. I adore this.
Take 1 minute, Alex.
Yeah, sorry. I'll take one. Let me take 1 minute to think about how I want to say this. I think this album is just like beautiful, like for what it is, because like at times it is heavy as well. This is a beautiful album. This is as a body of work and like as a body of art. This is
art is the word.
Yeah.
Like, this has been crafted.
Yes, 100%. Like there's so much, you can just feel like the care and the attention that's gone into this album, and it resonates in every song. And what I like is that everything everything feels connected and feels like it's existing within its own world, but it even within like one album, it still finds ways to like push its own boundaries, if that makes sense. Like it does stuff throughout this album that's like, oh, that's a bit different. That's kind of interesting. Like the contrast of a song like Jawbreaker being on it. And I think what's kind of interesting is like, I was expecting it to be throughout a lot heavier based on like the stuff that they've released prior. But I liked that it was a lot more kind of just like dreamy and very like wide open, big, like anthemic sounding stuff.
Yeah,
Like there's stuff on this that sounds huge.
I've said this about a lot of albums recently, but I think this is an album that just like knows when to do things at the right time. Like it knows when to be heavy. It knows like when to be more like atmospheric and shoegazy, and it just pulls everything together beautifully. I think. I keep also accidentally listening to albums, like having my first listen to an album during like the perfect setting for it. Like I went for a run in like the pounding rain when that Harriet album came out, and that was the perfect setting for that. Like thunderstorm, like horrifically heavy guitar tones and screaming and stuff. And this, I was out for a walk in the dark with like sort of street lights and stuff and car headlights and stuff coming at me while just listening to this music, and I know it just is. It's one of those times where it just makes you like almost question everything that you believe in and everything that you're doing with your life, because those are kind of some of the themes that come across in the album as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think lyrically, like, it's one of those albums that like kind of knows when to be kind of not vague in the sense that like. But it knows when to be like ambiguous and when to be specific.
It leaves you enough context to just make you question it. Yeah. And like question your own thoughts as well as question what the song's saying. Yeah. But also at times knows when to be on the nose about things.
I think the absolute standout for me on this album is It Hurts to Know You're There. Yeah. Which was the last single that we got just before release. This huge like soaring guitar solo that like I genuinely I don't think other bands are doing stuff like that anymore. Like the guitar solo is in and of itself like a lost art form, but for it to be on what is essentially like, I guess if we're going to put a label on this, a shoegaze album, I guess is
I suppose it is
the closest thing you could probably.
Shoegaze is probably like the core of it, and then it's pulling all these other influences in as well, isn't it?
But that song to me is just so massive. I love it. I was gutted that scheduling meant that I couldn't go to the Night in the Capitol release show, but album of the year for me so far. Everything now measures up to this.
Yep, I agree. I want to give a shout out to Ascending as well. I think that's a beautiful song and a perfect way to close the album out. Yeah, and I just can't stop listening to it.
Yep. Cam, welcome on the podcast anytime.
Absolutely.
One more album to talk about before we wrap up the latest releases.
Wrap it up, Roy.
Wrap it up, Roy. It is Anxious with their sophomore album, Bambi. I absolutely adored, and still do, adore Little Greenhouse, their debut. I think it's a perfect sort of like explosion of like energy. Mm-hmm. And this album is just like, the only way I can describe it is like, this album is this band like just firmly planting their feet and being like, this is who we are. Yeah. And
that's exactly what I was going to say.
This is our identity. And like, that's not to say that Little Greenhouse was like erratic or, because that was still like a very like identifiable album to them and a very unique album. But it's just the classic like second album, everything improved on what was on the first one. Like,
well, they say it's the difficult second album, don't they? And it's because it can go either way. It can either establish yourself even further as a band or just flop and not live up to expectations. But I feel like on Little Greenhouse they established themselves and went, we're here. On Bambi they're really going, we're here and this is who we are. This is the kind of music we're going to make. Yeah. Because I think the difference here is they've pulled in so many like pop influences and like pop songwriting methods. Like the hooks on this album are just ridiculous. Yeah. And just the little like woos and woes and things that they bring in, but still like keeps like an emo and like almost like hardcore like element to it as well is I think just really, really well done and really sets them apart from a lot of other bands in the scene.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an album that like it's weird to think about, like, I guess the phrase like instant classic, right? But like I think about like Never Before Seen, Never Again Found, and sort of albums like that sort of kind of are immediately like core albums within the scene. And I feel like this is probably going to have that same kind of effect.
I mean, you say that, but like I think that both of these albums like aren't but the same in Never Before Seen, but like this album isn't going to get its flowers, I don't think, until like towards the end of the year.
Yeah, that's.
And I think it was the same with that Arm's Length album as well. Is that like when it first came out, it was like the people that already knew about it were like, okay, yeah, this is great, but it took some time and maybe like some touring and like some more exposure to like gain a bit more of a following, and then for people to be revisiting it almost like retrospectively and going, oh, this is great.
Which is also what
because I think that's what's going to happen here.
I think that will also happen with the One Step Closer album, because like if you like Title Fight, you will like that album, and you'll also like this one as well.
Yep.
Because there are some people that are like Title Fight Reunion, and like Basement Reunion. There are bands out there doing it like now that are just as exciting and deserve like that attention, and so I think this is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Banger album.
Yeah, I think there's not enough people talking about it at the moment, but they'll come.
Yeah. Stacked month. February was great, but what's March got in store for us, James?
We got a lot of albums. We got Tsunami Sea from Spiritbox, The Darkness with Dreams on Toast. I think that's a great album name.
I
Memphis,
think it's not.
Sarcasm. Memphis
Pre-order
Made
now
Fire.
from drugmusic.store.
Memphis Made Fire with Shapeshifter, Coheed and Cambria with Vaxis Act 3, The Father of Make Believe, and Whitechapel with Hymns in Dissonance. What are we most excited for?
Well, obviously Spiritbox, isn't it?
Obviously, all eyes are going to be on that. I think it's going to be interesting to compare the Spiritbox and the Architects album.
Very true.
With Jordan Fisher's influence being on both. We'll see whether Spiritbox continue to set the bar, or whether they're going to fall behind like Architects have, possibly.
I will say I'm very interested in the Whitechapel album.
Yeah, I think so.
I've been over the past few months been massively getting into deathcore and actually like listening to more albums instead of just like, oh, the Saw is the Law or stuff like that. So being in that kind of mindset over the past few months, I'm very intrigued. And the title track they released as a single was incredible. And the music video was gory as hell.
I remember us reviewing their 2021 album, Kin, at the time. And I bloody loved it.
I really enjoyed that.
That was one of those things, because when you have a band like this, who maybe have like a song associated with them that's kind of a bit of like sometimes a band will have like one song that kind of transcends them.
Yeah.
And like the Saw is the Law is like a kind of, if you know deathcore, you know that song.
So it's a silence you only live once.
Sure, exactly right. So with Kin, it was like this might sound kind of silly, but it was kind of like the realization that there's more to that band than just that song. So I'm interested to see what this album's going to sound
I found that
like.
recently, and to be fair, one point we were going to see him in Oxford, and then pandemic happened. But also based on the day splits at Download, it looks like you're going to have Whitechapel back to back with Fit for an Autopsy.
That's fucking
and that's going to be. I'm going to try and survive that. We'll find out in a few months' time if that happens.
Make sure you tune into the vlog. That could be good. James literally dies.
So, Gig Talk, it's been a quieter month. We are still going to press forward with the promise that we'll like try and do more gigs this year. So I'm actually making the venture up to Scotland to see a mate and go and see Paleface Swiss in Glasgow.
I like that you made it one word then.
Yeah, it wasn't coming out. Paleface Swiss in Glasgow. So, and it looks like it's at like a basement hardcore warehouse kind of thing. So I got to try and, before I survive that, Whitechapel, Fit for an Autopsy, I've got to survive a Glaswegian mosh pit. So please wish me luck. I don't want any broken bones. Again.
It makes it sound like they traditionally have a different style of mosh pit.
I just feel like it's going to be different. I feel it like it's going to be more brutal.
Someone just lobs a can of Tenants.
Yeah. Iron Brew just flinging around in the venue.
Did you know there's one country where Coca-Cola isn't the top-selling soft drink, and it's Scotland.
Iron
Is
Brew.
it Iron Brew?
Yeah.
Iron Brew.
Fucking hell.
You boys got gigs coming up the next month?
Yes, I'm seeing my favourite band, Bears Den, performing at the Royal Albert Hall. They're playing their album Islands in full to celebrate, I believe, 10 years, which is a phenomenal album. I absolutely love it. I presume an orchestra will be there, but I haven't looked into it. But either way, I'm excited. It will be most certainly a night to
You should never presume an orchestra.
So true, man.
A wise man once said.
Never presume an orchestra.
Yourself?
I'm seeing Caskets tomorrow at time of recording.
Tomorrow.
With support from Colourblind, who have Ash Green drumming for them at the moment.
Yes, I saw about
Which
that.
I'm
Yeah.
excited about. And our boys in Listel are supporting as well.
Nice.
Big up. Today, we're going to try and draft the perfect band. We're going to go for drummer, bass player, 2 guitarists, a singer, and then a wild card option. And
Wild
we're
card.
going to see who can draft the best band. And then you're going to let us know in the comments which band you want to hear the most.
I am going to pull up a spinning wheel, which has got each of our names on. We will find out who is going first, second, third, and then we'll snake our way back down. I think, do we have an order we want to go through these kind of spots in the band, Dan?
I don't know. It feels natural to me to start with the rhythm section and go drummer, bassist, guitar, vocalist, wild card, baby.
Spin that wheel.
The wheel.
Oh, go on.
James goes
I'm
first.
going first.
Let's do another one so you go second.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what order that goes in.
Who is it?
What's Dan, isn't it?
Right, I don't know about you two. I am prepared right now.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm not. This is all.
I
I'm
forgot about
going.
the wild cards.
I'm just gonna let it. I'm just gonna let it come to me.
You're going to roll. So we start with drums.
Drums. You got
pick
spreadsheet? Is that a spreadsheet?
I've got a table. Don't look at my table. No. I'm going to start with Eloy Casagrande.
There we go.
Behind the kit, unrelenting. I'm going to let you know now my band's going to be heavy as fuck.
Fair
So
enough.
I feel like that's my strong basis there. Not bassist. Basis of where the formation of my rhythm section's coming from.
It sounds like you've put some thought into making a coherent band here because
I actually am. Yeah.
I haven't. It's going to
am.
be a real mismatch of genres, which is good. I like a lot of genres. But my drummer, I'm actually going to go for Mike from Listel
Oh, very nice.
because he's the drummer and also the singer. So it's kind of two places in one there.
Cheeky boy.
And he's a very good drummer and singer as well.
I want someone.
And he watches this, so yeah, you're welcome.
Big up, Mike. I want someone hard hitting, someone that smacks the absolute piss and shit out of a drum kit. And he's a free agent now. Are we having Ashley St. Green, formerly of Holding Absence? I mean, he
Interesting
just absolutely thumps the fucker, doesn't he?
Yep.
And
True.
if there's any foundation to build on, it's that. And I believe I get the next pick
You got bassist.
for bass. Interesting.
Bass.
It's
Are you actually
their
thinking as you
bass,
go
not
along?
Their bass.
I'm not thinking about this one bit.
We're on totally different wavelengths on preparation.
I'll be taking, for my bass, Josh Gilbert
Are you
of Spiritbox.
Is that purely just to spite James?
Partly.
fuck's sake?
It also, one of the best clean vocalists in metalcore of all time. So he will be supplementing the vocals here and there. Fantastic. Suck on that.
I hate you for that. I have a backup, but I hate you for that. Please don't pick up my backup.
No, I haven't taken your backup because I've gone for Paul McCartney.
Actually. That's rogue, okay. Reasons?
Big name.
That's got Alex by surprise.
God.
It's funny, isn't it?
It's because
Pure vibe.
you delivered it like 99% serious. But the 1%, I saw a twinkle in your eye that was like, I know this is funny.
So Mike from LaSalle and Paul McCartney are making up your rhythm section.
Yep.
Fucking hell.
Dream team. I've got nothing else to add. There's literally no logic as
nothing
to why I
else to
picked Paul
say.
McCartney.
That's brilliant.
The oldies love him. The Grey Pound and all that. Like if they play a live show, headlining like Hyde Park or something immediately because Paul McCartney's in the band.
Fair enough.
Quite the band already.
Yeah.
So seeing as you stole my pick that I would have gone for, my bassist is going to be Aaron, formerly now of Amity Affliction. That was my backup for it because in the similar kind of way can provide those iconic vocals.
Damn.
I will pose you a scenario if you're that annoyed. I'll do a trade.
Do you want to do a trade?
Do you want to do a trade? You can take Aaron and I'll take Josh.
Like it's the
This is like a proper
it's
draft.
Yeah. Official.
There we go.
Alex,
Traded.
editing Alex in your graphics. Switch around.
Does anyone want Paul McCartney?
I'm good, thanks.
Paul McCartney and
I
a
will-
protected guitar.
I will happily have Josh Gilbert there. Okay.
You know on FIFA you've got like on Ultimate Team you've got like the standard cards and then you've got the icon cards.
Yeah.
I feel like Paul McCartney's like an icon card.
Yeah, but his chemistry with everyone else is going to be dog shit.
Right, let me consult. My first guitarist is going to be Isaac Hale of Not Loose.
Great shout.
Again, I'm formulating something here. I'm going with a plan. This band is going to be heavy as fuck. He's going to provide the riffs. I mean, there's still bits that he puts on social media that weren't used in the last Not Loose album that I'm desperate to hear in songs. So I'm stealing those and they're coming into my band.
I'm having a last minute change because I've just thought of another one. I'm going to have Luke from Unpeople because
Interesting.
the riffs.
Very interesting. Very
And
interesting.
a young up and comer pairing with Paul McCartney. It's going to be good, isn't it?
It's funny you say that because I was going to pick, and I'm going to pick, Jake from Unpeople.
Ah,
Riffs for days, then, boys. So, interesting. Very interesting.
very good.
Now you have your second guitarist.
Second guitar. Tricky.
The tricky second guitar.
The tricky second guitar. The difficult second guitar.
The sophomore guitar.
I've got riffs. I need a shredder. Sinister Gates from Avenged Sevenfold.
Fair
you
enough.
know, some of the most iconic riffs in modern metal.
Yeah.
If you will. So, Sinister Gates, please and thank you.
Your second guitarist.
My second guitarist. Now, the guitarist that I've just subbed Luke out for was going to be Simon Neil, but I feel like I picked him last time. So instead, I'm going to have Mike Kinsella from American Football. I don't think I need to say anymore.
That's
Like-
very good. That's making
So,
me
some
question.
of those riffs and those iconic songs,
Do we need to-
iconic emo.
Do we need to
anthems.
declare at the end of this what genre our band is going to be? Or
I hope not.
I think on that basis,
Jazz.
on that basis, yes, we do. Okay, wonderful. My second guitarist is Tom Williams from Stray.
Brilliant.
That double guitar section of Isaac Hale and Tom Williams is going to provide some noises, especially with all the effects and things Tom uses. I think that's going to be fun. Which means then my vocalist, probably to no surprise, is Flo from Landmarks. It's going to give me so much diversity. There is a heavier kind of leaning towards with this band, and in particular, I think some of his lows, especially when they did their like live stream set. I think kind of like around about pandemic when Lost in a Wave came out. In particular, like there's a guttural he does during Rainfall. We're bringing that in. Yeah. Give me those gutturals.
Vocals. Now, I'm surprised, like thinking back, I don't think I chose this person last time we did the band draft.
I've got a horrible feeling you might pick who my
And
pick is.
I'm going to pick Vessel from Sleep Token.
Yeah, well, was not going to be my pick.
Okay. I'm now trying to think of what your pick would be so that I can quickly change it.
I would say explain.
No, I'm
explain, but I don't
I'm
think
committing
I
to
need
Vessel from Sleep Token, and again, I don't think I need to explain. And imagine the ballads that him and Paul McCartney could write together.
Wow.
I'm just picturing them on stage together. And it's like Paul McCartney with like a grin on his face while you're playing bass, because he usually looks, from bits I've seen, he looks quite happy. And then you've got like, while he's like that, you just got Vessel prancing around on stage. It just,
Hey Jude.
There's Vessel when he's like, you know, when Vessel does like his teary, like, hey, Jude.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, good pick.
Iconic.
Alex, your vocalist.
My vocalist. Ethereal, dreamlike, angelic, cleans, but screams from the mouth of hell itself. Debbie from Harriet.
Nice.
Also, that means that I've got Aaron from Amity doing backup vocals, Jake from People doing backup vocals, and now Debbie doing vocals.
This is my thing as well. Everyone I've picked so far is also a vocalist.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's just the best. She's just absolutely insane. So, oh, it's my wild card.
A
pick.
wild card, actually, yeah.
Wildcard.
Interesting. I've thought about this one the most,
Don't.
and I've only just now landed on my final pick.
Don't do it.
Don't worry. We are
Okay,
not
I'm
going to
good.
conflict on this.
Lovely.
Can I say what my runner-up pick was going to be?
Yes, you can.
My runner-up pick was going to be Isaac from Softplay. Extra percussion, extra vocals. He can prat about on stage when he's not singing. Go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
My final pick is Gabby Rose, the saxophone player for Bill Murray.
That's really good. Really good.
Everything's better with saxophone. And the live videos that I've seen, she's epic. So,
She's brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing saxophonist, amazing like vocalist as well. Just commanded the stage when they were supporting Sleep Token. So I'm kind of annoyed I didn't think of that pick.
Well, now it is your pick for wildcard,
Yes.
Dan.
And my runner-up, because I really couldn't think of a wild card for a little while, was Mr. Tumble.
I mean, fuck it. Look at the rest of the band you got.
Because I had that clip of him like playing live on that stage coming to my head. That one that everyone memed and put like deathcore over for a while. But instead, and like my hands have been on the table the whole time. My wild card is Isaac from Softplay. It's what I got written down. That I didn't just steal it.
Oh my god, you
Because I just thought of it. There's a Softplay album behind us. I'm not going to dead name them. The debut album from them. And yeah, it's just come to mind. And again, the reasons you said, he can just thump the tubs. He can jump in the crowd. He can start chatting shit about kebabs. Can do what he wants, isn't he? Can't he? He's the ultimate wild card.
He is the ultimate wild card, yeah.
So
Beat that, James.
it's very interesting. 'cause
Don't take Mr. Tumble.
You both have you both thought about it kind of a lot of a live perspective, and I'm thinking about live perspective.
You think I thought about it?
I don't even know what to think about yours myself. Anyway, but I'm thinking like as a band as well. This is going to be a super group, and we're going to press on. We're going to make records. So why not have someone who's a producer who writes with so many bands and also plays phenomenally well live? I'm talking about Mr. Will Putney. He's got the
Excellent.
rapport with
Yes,
Isaac
absolutely.
Hale. He's got the rapport with Tom Williams. We've got Eloy behind the kit. It's like there's shit he's going to be able to do with these musicians.
You trying to say that Paul McCartney doesn't have rapport with Isaac from Softplay?
Yes.
Wow.
Oi, Jude!
Oi, Jude. Should we recap our bands?
Yeah, get people in the comments to decide who's the best, because there's no way we can decide.
No. So on drums, I've got Ule Casagrande. On bass, I've got Josh Gilbert. On guitars, I've got Tom Williams and Isaac Hale. I've got Flo from Landmarks on vocals. And then my wild card is Will Putney.
On drums, I have Mike from Lestelle. We've got Paul McCartney on bass, of all people. Luke from Unpeople and Mike from American Football on guitar. Vessel on vocals. And my wild card is Isaac from Softplay.
Bang him. I have on drums, Ashley, formerly of Holden Absence. On bass, Aaron, formerly of the Amity Affliction. On guitar, Sinister Gates from Avenged Sevenfold and Jake from Unpeople. Vocalist, Debbie Guff from Harriet. And my wild card, Gabby Rose from Bill Murray and also the Jonas Brothers.
It's true.
Let us know in the comments who's got the best band. I think I do.
Right, that's me.
Mine's all right.
Here we are at the end of another happy episode. But before we go, an album recommendation. James.
I am going to recommend Downer Part 2 by 1056. Now, as you kind of both may have listened to it from the new single out, Earwig, here's a bit of a delve back and to revisit something that we may have talked about when it came out briefly, but now to have that familiarity a bit more, enjoy.
I would like to recommend Common Suffering by Harm's Way, because and that just really excites me. It shivers my timbers.
I'm staying on trend with disgusting sounding metalcore. So I will be recommending Sanctions EP, The Infringement of God's Plan. I might have recommended this in a previous episode, way back when, I don't recall. So if I have,
just listen to it again.
To enjoy it again.
Yeah, why
If
not?
he has,
Once
berate
again,
him in the comments.
It sounds like a cassette tape that's been dug up of a metalcore
Intriguing.
band. So take with that what you will.
I will.
And that's it. That's the end of another great episode, I think.
I'd say so.
I thought it was all right.
I think we're doing all right. But you let us know in the comments. Was this utter dog shit or not?
Have we fallen off? Are we cooked?
Are we cooked? Chat,
Are we
are
cooked?
If you want to join the discussion that's not in those pesky YouTube comment sections, we've got the Ragamuffin Club, a fun, free and friendly Facebook group that's free to join. Fuck, that was a lot of Fs.
A lot of alliteration there.
We want this podcast to be yours as much as it is ours, and the best place to do that is in the Ragamuffin Club. Join it now, bitch.
We have t-shirts available on our website, ragamuffin666.uk. Link is also in the description. Got a couple of designs on there, so be a ragamuffin and cop a lovely t-shirt.
Like and subscribe and stuff.
Perfect.
Thank you and God bless. We'll see you in episode 50.